Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be taking a look at BT06, and BT06 offers us some new and exciting cards to build and put certain cards in certain combinations we might not have thought about before. So today's deck profile is going to be a blue Cerberusmon deck. Yes, I know, blue Cerberusmon. We haven't really seen a whole lot of that card, and that card necessarily isn't that good, but we get some really interesting parts and pieces that in the right particular order and in the right combination can do some really powerful things with. So this deck is solely focused and centered around trying to utilize the blue Cerberusmon to his utmost potential, and we got some really good cards from not only just BT06 to possibly think about utilizing in combination with him, but we also got some really good cards in the All-Force Veedramon deck that could really help and support the deck on what it's trying to do. So without further ado, onto the deck profile. Starting with the Digitama, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Upamon. I probably should be running 4, but I also value the DP boost that the other Digitama is going to be giving, and I feel like just 3 Upamons is still enough because it's one of the best ways that we have to draw cards on a Digitama in blue. So it has this powerful when attacking inheritable ability where if the opponent has a Digimon with no Digivolution sources in play, then we get to draw a card, and believe me, we want to try to draw as many cards as we possibly can with this deck, making Upamon just one of the best, if not the best, Digitama for the deck. But speaking of DP boosting on the Digitama slot, I'm going to be running 2 copies of DemiVeemon because, well, we already know that Cerberusmon is going to be able to unsuspend himself, and we want him to be a little bit stronger just in case we don't have all of the parts and pieces that we need. So unfortunately, Cerberusmon is a little bit on the weaker side, so having this plus 1000 DP will help him survive a little bit better. Even though we're not necessarily super concerned about his DP because of how we're trying to play the deck, it's still just nice to have just in case. Next, on to the rookies, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Gabumon. So this is the BT01 version of Gabumon, and we're just running him just because, well, he has the on-play ability to draw a card, and, well, drawing is the whole theme of the deck, so he's just a good card to include because when we play him, he's going to replace himself, so it's not like we're actually losing any card advantage for hard playing him when we're trying to build our Digimon in our raising area. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Gomamon. So this is the BT01 version of Gomamon, and this Gomamon has a really good inheritable ability of on delete to gain a memory. So we are going to be playing Werewolf mode, and Werewolf mode does require us to sacrifice our normal Cerberusmon, so we might as well try to get some benefit out of his sacrifice with Gomamon gaining us an additional memory. So this is just a really good card to complement for when we use Werewolf mode. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Veemon. So this is the BT02 Veemon, and this Veemon is another really fantastic draw engine for the deck because he has this nice inheritable ability of during your turn once per turn, when this Digimon becomes unsuspended during your main phase, which Cerberusmon can because of his when attacking ability, we get to draw a card, and, well, that's really good because, again, we want to try to draw as many cards as we possibly can because of how Cerberusmon wants to function. And then the last rookie of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Veemon. So this is the starter deck at Veemon, and this Veemon is a very powerful card for this deck specifically to run because of its inheritable ability. So its inheritable ability states, when attacking, not limited to once per turn. If we have 7 or fewer cards in our hand, then we get to draw 1 card. Because Werewolf mode can multi-attack, that means we could use this ability multiple times, and because he could attack more than twice per turn, that means we could draw lots of cards off of this Veemon, because, well, we're going to have to be discarding cards in order to multi-attack with Cerberusmon, so being able to have a card constantly refill our hand or help refill our hand is just very, very powerful for this deck to be playing around with. And then it also has the upside of a very good passive ability where during your turn, if the opponent has a level 6 or higher Digimon in play, then we could warp Digivolve this Digimon into an All-Force Veedramon from our hand for 4 memory and ignore the rest of its Digivolution requirements. So the fact that we could use this to actually be able to play a level 6 is a really good benefit for the deck, but we mostly care about this card for its inheritable for Cerberusmon. Next, on to the champions, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Lobomon. So Lobomon is just an alternate win condition for the deck. Yes, we could use him as just a generic at level 4 to be Digivolving on, but we really value his ability where we could Digivolve him on top of a Tamer, as if the Tamer was a level 3 Digimon, very, very much, because we want to try to break the opponent's security as quickly and efficiently as we possibly can, and to then try to use Lobomon to, well, act as a surprise attack off of our tamer to try to close out the game with. So that's what's making Lobomon a very good card to use, just to, well, again, be an alternate win condition for the deck. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Veedramon Zero. So Veedramon Zero is an absolutely insane card for this deck to be running because of how much synergy and how much work this card actually does. So what we really care about the card is the fact that he has a very good inheritable ability that synergizes very nicely with Cerberusmon. So Veedramon Zero's inheritable ability states, when attacking, not limited to once per turn, we get to place 3 non-Digi-Egg cards from our trash to the bottom of our deck in any order to draw a card. So we already know that with Cerberusmon, we're going to want to discard cards in order to be able to attack multiple times, and the fact that we have this Veedramon to basically put all of the cards we just discarded back to the bottom of our deck in order to help try to refill our hand multiple times is just so insanely good for the deck. It's crazy. And then on top of which, if we actually need to use him as a really solid level 4 Digimon to be aggressive with, he's actually a pretty solid one to be aggressive with because he natively has his own when attacking ability, where if we have a blue tamer, then we get to trash the top 3 cards of our deck in order to give this Digimon plus 2000 DP. Yes, the plus 2000 DP does carry over, but most of the time we're not going to be able to utilize this ability in combination with any of our other Digimon, but it's still a nice ability to have to make for a very aggressive level 4 Digimon. But again, we really care about that inheritable ability just because it synergizes super powerfully with Cerberusmon. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Grizzlymon. So Grizzlymon is going to be the deck's dedicated blocker, and we still want some form of defense in the deck, and Grizzlymon is just one of the best blockers that we have currently to work with. We don't necessarily care about the tempo because we're not trying to use this card to Digivolve all the way up into our higher levels. We just really care about the fact that he's a blocker with 6000 DP, so he could try to wall out the opponent's Digimon the best that he possibly can. And then the last champion of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Veedramon. So Veedramon is another really powerful card for this deck to be playing around with because, well, he's a level 4 with the on-play ability of drawing 2 cards. So he, again, is helping us try to draw cards and fill up our hand as much as we possibly can, so that way we could use Cerberusmon to its utmost potential. But on top of the fact that he has a really good on-play ability, he also has a security ability that plays with his on-play ability because his security ability states that at the end of the battle, we get to play this Digimon for free, and then that will trigger his on-play ability to help us draw 2 cards and get a body on board. So this is just another really powerful card that has lots of good synergy with the deck, just because it's doing everything that the deck wants to do, and he's also going to be another very aggressive level 4 to be playing around with, just because, well, he's coming out of the security, and that could be a surprise for the opponent and an extra attack they might not be accounting for. Next, on to the ultimates, I'm going to be running 4 copies of the main boss monster of the deck, Cerberusmon. So Cerberusmon is just a slightly underrated card. I think even though this card isn't necessarily super great, it's still a very powerful card to be playing around with when put together like this. So what this card is doing that's making him so strong is the fact that he has a nice when attacking ability that triggers twice per turn, where we could unsuspend this Digimon by trashing 3 cards from our hand. So essentially, he could attack 3 times total by discarding a total of 6 cards. Yes, that does seem like a lot, but that's why we have lots of when attack, draw card abilities in order to try to keep our hand as healthy as we possibly can, and we run a couple of other really decent cards to try to close out the game because of our other Cerberusmon, which we're going to be running 4 copies of Werewolf mode. So Werewolf mode is what's also adding some extra aggression into the deck, because once we're done attacking with our Cerberusmon, then we just sacrifice him to a Werewolf mode, so that way we could get an extra attack in. So the full combo is going to be 4 total attacks on top of anything else that we already did prior. Cerberusmon Werewolf mode just makes the combo play even stronger in this style of deck. So what Werewolfmon is doing specifically is he does have the rush ability, so when we play him, he's going to be able to attack, and he has an on-play ability where we get to delete 1 Cerberusmon to gain 9 memory, basically making him free to play. So this is just a very, very powerful card to be playing around with for this style of deck because we're focusing so heavily on Cerberusmon. And then the only level 6 of the deck is going to be 2 copies of All-Force Veedramon. So this is just another card that's not super bad to have in this style of deck because we're already playing the Veemon, and we already have the ability to, well, warp Digivolve into him, so we have the deck space to want to include him in the deck as basically an alternate win condition. So in case Cerberusmon can't necessarily close out games, we still have access to a level 6 to try to do as much work as we possibly can with him. So he's another very good card because of the warp potential, and he has 2 really strong abilities of his own. His first ability is a when Digivolving ability, where we get to return one of the opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon back to their hand, so just a generic bounce effect. And then on top of that, he has a when attacking ability of his own, where once per turn, if we have 8 or more cards in our hand, then we get to unsuspend this Digimon, so he himself can multi-attack and try to take advantage of a lot of our when attacking abilities as well. So this is just another really good card to complement the deck and round it out as a whole. Next, on to the options, I'm going to be running 3 copies of We Have to Stop Fighting. So We Have to Stop Fighting is one of the most important cards in the whole deck because, well, it's just allowing our Cerberusmon to live easier through all of his multiple security attacks. So as we can see, Cerberusmon doesn't necessarily have the highest DP for a level 5 Digimon, and DP boosting it isn't necessarily going to be the best and most efficient way for him to live through those security checks, so giving him basically jamming or pseudo-jamming is the best way to make him live through multiple security checks. Yes, he could still die to 2 options in the security, but We Have to Stop Fighting at least helps prevent him from dying due to security Digimon. So what this card is doing more specifically is it's a 2-costed blue option where it has the main ability where neither player's Digimon can be deleted in battle for the turn. So this does include security battles, so it basically just gives all of our Digimon pseudo-jamming. And that's what we're really trying to gain out of the card, is just to allow our Digimon to be as aggressive as they possibly can, and the fact that this affects all Digimon just makes this card even better to use it, so that way we could try to lower our chance of our Digimon dying to security so we could close out the game as efficiently as we possibly can. And then this card has the added security benefit of adding itself to our hand, so that way we get to try to figure out when is the best time to use this card. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Blue Memory Boost. So Blue Memory Boost is another really good card because it's adding to the overall consistency of the deck. So what this card is doing is it has the nice main ability where we get to check the top 4 cards of our deck, add 1 blue Digimon from among them into our hand, and then the rest go to the bottom in any order. And then this card will go into the battle area, so that way we could use its secondary main effect of Delay to gain 2 memory at a later turn. This card is really important for the deck because it helps set up not only just our Cerberusmon, because we need to try to find our Cerberusmon to the best of our abilities. Even though we are running lots of card draw, a lot of it is on attack abilities, so we need to have alternate ways to try to draw cards, and this is one of the best ways to try to find out our Cerberusmon, so we could try to combo out as efficiently as we possibly can, while setting up our combo, because this card will give us the 2 memory to be able to either A, Digivolve our Tamer into a Lobomon in order to push for game, or B, set up our We Have to Stop Fighting play, so that way we could try to make our swings as safe as we possibly can. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Hammerspark. So Hammerspark is still a pretty solid card to be using for the deck just because it's some instant memory gain and instant tempo. So we want to try to be as aggressive as we possibly can. So we could use this card a little aggressively to try to turbo Digivolve into our higher stages, so that way we could try to push as quickly and efficiently as we possibly can, while still being a relatively decent security threat because it has the security ability of gaining 2 memory, which could potentially ruin some of the opponent's plays, making it just a very good card to use. And then the last option of the deck is going to be 3 copies of Cocytus Breath. So Cocytus Breath is just the defensive card of the deck, and that's really all it's in the deck for. Sometimes we just can't answer certain Digimon, so Cocytus Breath is our answer to those problems, and it has the really good main ability of bouncing one of the opponent's Digimon back to their hand, so it could be any Digimon, and that's really important to try to get certain threats off of the field. And what we're really trying to use the card for is the fact that its security ability activates its main, so if the opponent is trying to, well, aggress into us, then this card can help turn off some of that aggression. And then the last card of the deck is going to be 3 copies of Davis. So Davis is just a really decent tamer for this deck to be running because, well, he's a really solid memory fixing tamer. So if our memory is ever less than 3, he'll hard set us to 3, and that's really important, so that way we can make a good Cerberusmon play where we could Digivolve our level 4 into our Cerberusmon, as we moved him out of the raising, so that way we could start swinging with our Cerberusmon. And Davis helps set us up and line us up for those types of plays, on top of the fact that he has an on-play ability of his own that's adding to the overall consistency of the deck by allowing us to check the top 3 cards and add a blue and a green Digimon from among them into our hand, and the rest go to the bottom. So again, it's just another card to try to help dig out our Cerberusmon and our other parts and pieces, so that way we could try to build the best Cerberusmon we can to be as aggressive as we possibly can. So to kind of quickly show off what I was talking about, the most ideal stack that we could get with Cerberusmon is going to be using Upamon to draw us a card when we attack. We're going to use Veemon from the starter deck to draw us a card when we attack, because we're going to be discarding cards, putting ourselves under 7 almost all the time, so that way we could trigger this ability multiple times. And then because we're going to be discarding 3 cards, we could use those 3 cards that we're going to be discarding each time to draw another card when we attack off of Vegemon Zero. So this way, when we swing with our Cerberusmon, we're going to be discarding 3 cards, putting us under that 7, so Veemon will draw us a card, hopefully Upamon will draw us a card, and then Vegemon Zero will draw us a card, so we gain back all the cards that we basically just discarded. He's going to restand. We're going to do that again. Unfortunately, because Upamon is once per turn, we're only going to be drawing 2, so we actually are losing 1 card, but that's okay because he's going to stand again, and then we get to swing again with him for a 3rd time, and then to end things off in terms of the combo, we could then sacrifice our Cerberusmon to then go into Werewolf mode for a 4th attack, and then still have enough memory to still possibly do some various other things. So ideally, you're going to want to have a Davis and or memory boost set up, so that way we could use We Have to Stop Fighting after moving him out of the raising, and that's kind of why we also want Hammer Spark, because the opponent's going to at least have to put us at 1. So if we don't have blue memory boost, then we still have Hammer Spark to use We Have to Stop Fighting to be able to swing multiple times with our Cerberusmon, so that way we could try to make him as safe as we possibly can. Then the 2 best supporting rookies, in case we don't see the Veemon, is going to be the BT02 Veemon, because at least he'll still help us try to draw cards, so that way we're not losing so many cards in our hand. And then we also have the Gomamon, in case we don't see any of them, to just be able to sacrifice and gain an additional memory for going into our Werewolf mode. So this is kind of just the whole core and crux of what the deck is trying to do. And then, like I said, we do have the All-Force Veedramon in the deck to be able to warp our Veemon off of as just an alternate plan B, and we even do have Lobomon as a tamer to think about utilizing it to be able to use Davis more efficiently and more aggressively. So that's kind of just what the deck is trying to do in a nutshell, and it's a really fun and powerful deck to be playing around with, even if it's not going to be super hyper meta top tier competitive. And then we still have a whole bunch of other cards that we could think about playing to really try to customize the deck and make it our own. So we do have a small purple package that you could run centered around discarding cards and using our options. So we do have Ogremon to act as one of the best on-play Digimon to just hard slam a purple level 4 to try to control the opponent's field. And then on top of that, we also have Cerberusmon that we're also not afraid to just hard play or Digivolve off of said Ogremon. So that way we could try to use the purple Cerberusmon as efficiently and effectively as we possibly can in combination with Werewolf mode. Then we even have Skullgreymon as a really good discard fodder. So the blue Cerberusmon is still having us discard cards, so we could take advantage of some of those Titamon-esque cards that reward us for discarding cards. Yes, unfortunately, this does work with only purple Digimon, but you could include some more purple Digimon outside of the ones here to give the retaliation bonus too. Then we have Underworld Call to, well, res said Ogremon to get its on playability off, on top of it being a really good discard card to want to just pitch, because it's going to add another card back into our hand, because when it's discarded we get to draw 1 card. So it's just another really powerful card to synergize with the deck, and one of the best and most efficient purple tamers that we could run to round things out is going to be Mimi, so that way we could try to get an additional memory for us just literally using our options, which just makes our options a little bit cheaper, on top of the potential of taxing the opponent's options. So it's just another really good card to think about playing with. Then we do have some other tamers that we could also consider. So we could consider running Takumi, because we want to try to draw lots of cards and Digivolve all the way up into our Cerberusmon as our main point of aggression. So Takumi will help us draw more cards, and it'll even help it de-incentivize the opponent's low-level Digimon from attacking. Yes, it de-incentivizes our low-level Digimon from attacking, but we're not really trying to attack with them. We're trying to use them to Digivolve up into something better. And then we also do have Analog Youth in the Classic Collection that we could think about playing just to try to help dig for our parts and pieces, and we are interacting with trying to delete level 5s with inheritable sources, so it only makes sense for us to try to think about utilizing this card to be able to turbo our raising area to, well, make our plays as aggressively as we possibly can. Then we even have the Classic Collection Veemon to think about, because when we're unsuspending our Digimon, we're going to be gaining a memory, and that's pretty decent, on top of the fact that we have the BT-003 Veemon to just, well, be a really aggressive rookie to try to deal some really good chip damage in, and to complement that, we also have the Veemon that lets us draw a card for our Digimon having jamming. And speaking of our Digimon having jamming, instead of running We Have to Stop Fighting, we could run the Nova Blast to be able to give our Digimon jamming if we wanted to try to line up that style of play. Then we even have Howling Memory Boost at stopping some aggression and allowing us to aggress. And then we also have Forbidden Trident as one of the best boost options in blue to be running. It's only a 2,000 and not a 3,000, unlike Mad Dog Fire or some of the others, but that's okay because we could use this ability multiple times to try to bounce the opponent's low-level Digimon back into their hand because, well, Cerberusmon's ability just allows us to multi-attack, and this isn't limited to once per turn. Then we do have alternate forms of removal that we could possibly run. I think the best alternate form is going to be in the form of Rattlestar, but I digress. And this is just if you want to try to add in some extra defense, we have multiple different options to do that with. And speaking of extra defense, we could even think about running Ice Wall from the Classic Collection because this is just one of the best defensive options in the entire game. The ability to tax the opponent's attack stacks, which makes it really, really oppressive for the opponent to try to do anything to us outside of just, well, Digivolve and pass, and that's what's making this card super good, on top of the fact that it also is a really good security ability that's basically Hammer Spark in security, so even in security this card could still be oppressive and disruptive for the opponent. So there's just lots of different tech and tools as a result that we could think about playing with depending on how you want to play and what you want to try to utilize. But for the most part, this is just my interpretation on what a Cerberusmon deck is going to look like. Yes, you could just play purple Cerberusmon with like Lilithmon and Plutomon and just run like an option revive package, but that seems really boring, and this is a little bit more different and a little bit more exciting because it's trying to use parts and pieces in combinations that we haven't necessarily seen before in the game. So as a result, I really think this is going to be a very fun and exciting deck, even if it's not going to be tier 1 meta competitive. I just think adding some extra depth and diversity and kind of showing off what Digimon can do is just one of the best aspects of the game to really try to show off what the game is capable of. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.